Hi guys, this is Sonna with Abundance Rising Family. I was going to be recording a bread making video today, and just as I was setting up the camera, I got a phone call from my husband. He took our teenagers to a men's conference at the church, and it's going to be outdoors, which in Texas in February is no big deal. But when he got there, he realized he made a grave mistake. It is in the shade. Our church has a large arena behind it, and so it's not really indoors, but it does have a giant roof over it, and they're sitting in the shade, and it's a little chilly today. So instead of making a bread making video, I'm driving jackets to all of my boys at the church. So since I have a little time in the car, I thought maybe I would come on and just share a little bit about why I started milling fresh wheat and just some of the hard lessons that I learned along the way. When I very first started milling fresh wheat, I assumed that it would be the same as baking bread, but you're just milling your wheat ahead of time. I was very mistaken. It's not even close to the same thing. So the first probably 8 to 10 loaves of bread that I made, I just was not happy with. They were edible because my family is very gracious, but I wouldn't say that they were delicious. And the learning curve was really steep for me. So once I finally started getting the hang of it and I started learning the tricks to making the bread better, I started really sharing with people the journey that I had begun of milling my fresh wheat. And here in just a minute, I'll get into why I made that adjustment in our lives. But you know, it started to take off like wildfire. People were interested and people wanted to learn about it, and they wanted to know why I would do that. And women from our church wanted to give it a try. And more people were coming up and saying, do you really mill your own wheat berries? How do you do that? What is involved? I want to try. And every single one of them, one of the first things I tell them is, if you want to make bread from fresh milled wheat, please come to my home and let's have a lesson. Because I don't want anybody to have to go through the learning curve that I had. It was so discouraging. Failure after failure. You would slice into the bread and it would just crumble into a giant mess. It was dry. It didn't rise, or it overrose and it fell. Milling your own wheat is not cheaper. It's not about saving money. It's about quality of food. So we were going to eat it. I would do whatever it took to make it edible, make French toast out of it, or bread pudding, or you do something so that you can eat this terrible product that you put so much effort into, and it did not work out. So I didn't want people to go through that. So anybody that has approached me personally in my life and said, I want to know more, I want to try this, I have brought them into my home and shown them the tips and the tricks that I've learned to make this successful. I am planning to build videos little by little so that I can also share those failures and those successes with you. So end goal, I'd like to be producing at least one baking video a week. Now, I have 10 children, I have a homestead, I milk a cow, we have a garden. My goal is one video a week. I'll do my very best. But what I'd like to know from you is, what would you like to learn how to make? So I've got a friend today making English muffins. I haven't tried that before. I'm willing to try new things on video so that we can see my successes and failures for you. Let's see how it works out or how it doesn't, and then we can learn how to tweak it from there. So I'm willing to try new things. I haven't tried English muffins, but I'd like to. I haven't tried tortillas, but I want to. My youngest 6 could eat breakfast burritos every single day. So I really need to learn how to stop purchasing tortillas from the store and making my own. I make all of our sandwich bread. I make all of our muffins, cookies, pancakes. All of those things are fresh milled. I make a cinnamon swirl bread. I make a pizza stuffed bread that is so good. Man, I can taste it now. But what would you like to see me make on these weekly videos? I'd like to learn how to make naan bread. These are things I haven't done yet, but I'm willing to do. I'm willing to try. I'm willing to learn and fail on camera so that you guys don't have to make those mistakes. So just leave in the comments below what you would like to see me make. Today I was planning to make cinnamon mostly because my husband and my teenagers are at our conference all weekend, and I thought that it would be really good to have breakfast already made for tomorrow. So we'll see if I manage to chisel out some time to do that, but I may get home and still make a cinnamon roll recipe for you guys. But yeah, so fresh milled wheat, why would you do that? When you can go to the store and you can buy it in bulk for significantly cheaper, why would you mill your own wheat? Then you have to purchase a mill, and you have to learn how to work with the product, and you have to have different wheat berries, and you have to learn about the different wheat berries. What is the point? Well, I'm not doing it just because it's fun, although it is fun. I have gotten to where I'm a little too passionate about fresh milled wheat. But I originally got on board because my husband had developed some health problems, and he needed to lose a certain amount of weight in a rather fast amount of time. And we started seeing a functional medicine doctor, and he gave us a very, very strict protocol that we were to follow. And in that, we gave up all bread products, any and all. No pastas, nothing. As you know, I mean, pasta it's bad for you. Bread is bad for you. It's all terrible for you. And it's this epidemic of obesity in America, and they equate a lot of that to the bread that we eat, the bread and the sugar. So we cut it all out. We weren't eating anything, and we followed the doctor's protocol very, very carefully, and we were successful. But the more we would sit in the evenings and do our Bible studies together, my husband and I, we sit and we read the Bible each evening after we put the kids to bed, and the more we do that, the more I began to read about bread in the Bible. Not just in the Old Testament, it's in the New Testament as well. And it comes up over and over and over again. And I just kept feeling, how can bread be so bad for you if it was designed for so many to consume on a daily basis? And so yes, I've heard all of the theories of it's not the same wheat that it was back in their day. They've completely changed it and modified it, and it's not even the same product anymore. Well, that could kind of make sense. Or you'll hear, well, they grind the wheat and then they sift all the nutrition out of it. So they've removed everything that's good. It's gone. Okay, I could even get behind that. And for a while, I believed those things. But it still just didn't set right with me. How is bread or wheat, we'll go with wheat, how is wheat so bad for you when God designed it to be such a staple product? I accidentally stumbled upon Sue Becker with the Bread Beckers. She is a scientist, she's a nutritionist, she is a Christian, and she really knows her stuff. I started listening to her podcast, and then I started reading her books, and it all started to make so much sense. Everything that she taught about wheat and how it loses its nutrition over time just really rang with truth, you know, and I wanted to know everything about it. I wanted to jump in with both feet. I was fully on board. I talked with Justin about it. I shared with him everything that I learned from the podcasts and the books and my own research. And I think, truth be told, all he heard was, you can eat bread again. And he's like, yes, do it. Whatever you have to do. I'm all up for it. So he allowed me to purchase anything I needed to get started. But I'm not really one for wasting money. And I wanted to make sure this was something I could really do. I purchased all of our bread products from the store, just like most other Americans. I didn't know if I would really be able to bake bread for a family of 12 and have enough to really keep us stocked all week, every week, all year long. Was that something I could even really do? So I started by buying a really cheap hand mill off of Amazon. And I bought just a small bag of wheat berries off of Amazon. I was going to start small to make sure that I even liked the taste of bread. Have y'all ever had whole wheat bread at the store? Why do we eat that? It's like cardboard. Anyway, if that's what this bread was going to come out like, I wasn't going to be able to stick to it. So I was not going to invest large amounts of money into making cardboard that I could buy at the store. I didn't know what to expect. I hadn't known anybody at that time that milled their own wheat and baked their own bread, so it's not like I could have tried it anywhere. So I bought a small hand crank mill. I have teenage boys, so that worked out well, and a small bag of berries, and I got my kids on it. And they milled some wheat for me. That was a workout. I helped them a little, probably not as much as I should have. I let them do it. And then I baked my first loaf of bread. Now, it didn't come out good, but I was surprised that it did not taste like store-bought whole wheat flour, or, store-bought whole wheat bread. It actually had really good flavor. The texture was just off. So, after I gave it a try, and the loaves were edible, I went ahead and invested in a better mill. But anyway, I had a lot to learn. But one of the biggest things that Sue went over was why commercial wheat products are bad for us. And it has nothing to do with GMO. But when you mill your wheat berry, it is now exposing the inside of that wheat kernel to oxygen. And much like cutting into an apple, as soon as you cut into an apple, the outer protective layer, being the skin on the apple, has now been removed, and the inside of the apple is being exposed to oxygen, and that apple begins to oxidize. And as it oxidizes, we can visibly see it turning brown. You can't see your wheat turning brown, but it's the same process. Now that it has been exposed to oxygen, it begins to oxidize and lose its nutrition. In the first 3 days after milling your wheat, it has lost 90% of the nutrition in that wheat. So, wheat on the stalk has 40 of the 44 essential nutrients needed to sustain life. Man can almost live on bread alone. Wheat has almost everything you need to thrive. And as soon as you mill it, it begins to oxidize and lose that nutrition. Once you have taken it and baked with it, you then are locking in and preserving that nutrition, and it does not continue to deteriorate. So we mill our wheat the day that we're going to bake. We bake with it immediately. I do my best to use all of it. It's always handy to mill more flour than you need, because then you can talk your daughter into making cookies or banana bread. Anyway, we use all of the wheat each time that we're going to be baking. If there's any left over, I may let it sit over until the next day, but if it has sat for more than 3 days, I actually feed it out to the pigs. So I try not to mill more than I can use. But wheat, before it has been milled, has 40 of the 44 essential nutrients to sustain life. So all of the bread products on the shelf, even if they didn't sift out the bran, even if they didn't remove some of the healthier things in it, 3 days after it's been milled, it's worthless. It has nothing to do with GMO or a different breed of wheat or making it drought resistant. Now, it is possible to buy ancient grains. Ancient grains is becoming a bigger thing. You hear about it more often. And to be fair, I do enjoy ancient grains. Einkorn is one of my favorites. I love einkorn bread. I use it as a treat. It's something that only my husband and I eat because it is the most expensive wheat berry that I can buy. So I don't make it very often, and I don't make it in large quantities. But I do make it because I love it. And there is spelt, and there is Camus, which is actually spelled K-A-M-U-T, but it is pronounced Camus. Those are ancient grains, and I'm sure there's many more out there. And they all make wonderful bread products. I'm feeding 12 people, and traditional wheat is significantly easier on the budget. So I do buy traditional red, hard red wheat, hard white wheat. I buy soft wheat. I use all of it. And then the traditional, or the ancient grains, I will actually use here and there, or I'll mix some hard wheat and some ancient grains together. There's so many different ways to do it. But it's really not the type of grain that you buy that is going to matter. All of it is good for you. All of it has the nutrition that God placed into that wheat for your body to use. And your body has the ability to absorb this nutrition as long as you're consuming it the way God designed it to. So all of this just really rang with truth. And Sue Becker's you really want to learn more, I really highly encourage you to go listen to that. I'll have it in the comment section below or in the description box below. But she has a lot of scripture that actually goes along with everything that she teaches. So I'm like, okay, bread technically isn't bad for you as long as you eat it the way it was designed to be eaten. Then, at that point, we have our hand mill, we have our small little bag of Amazon wheat berries, and we're doing our best to make bread. But there was still so much for me to learn. If you go onto Azure Standard or Amazon or any place that you can buy wheat berries and you're trying to search for exactly what you want, how do you know what kind of wheat berry you need? Because there's so many different kinds of wheat out there. And there's hard red, there's hard white, there's soft white. And as I said, the einkorn, the camus, the spelt, and there's so much more out there. Those really are the basics that you're gonna run into. But the first question that I get asked is, how do I know what wheat berries to buy? And a lot of that has to do with what you plan to do with it. If you are gonna make anything that does not require yeast, whether it's wild yeast like sourdough or store-bought yeast, if it does not require yeast, pancakes, muffins, cookies, tortillas, anything that doesn't need that rise time. Now, I'm not talking about baking soda and baking powder, but actual yeast. If it doesn't need it, you're going to use a soft wheat. And the point of that is it has less protein and less gluten in it, so it doesn't have the ability to expand the way bread can. You're not going to get that good rise, and you end up with a softer, more crumbly product. Not that your cookies are going to fall apart, but they wouldn't be able to rise to the extent that you need bread to rise. So soft wheat is for things like cookies and pancakes and waffles, biscuits. We actually do half and half. That's just our preference at home. If we're making biscuits, I do half soft and half hard white. But that is essentially what you're going to use your soft white wheat for. It makes amazing pancakes, let me tell you. Now, hard wheats, there are different varieties out there. But there's spring wheats and winter wheats. We can get into that another time. As long as it is a hard wheat, it is used for anything that needs to rise. If you are putting yeast in your product, wild yeast like sourdough or store-bought traditional yeast, it doesn't matter. It's got to be a hard red or hard white or just a hard wheat. So cinnamon rolls, pizza dough, because it does rise. I use a hard wheat for that. Any bread products. Yeah. So, I mean, that's that. Our family prefers hard red. Hard red has more flavor to it. And we just like it better. Some people will use hard white, and the thing with white is it has a much milder flavor. So if your family is most used to store-bought white bread, I would really encourage you to start with a hard white because it's going to have a much milder flavor. As far as the texture and the way you work with it, it's really not that different. And you're just going to have to find what you like. We do have friends who prefer half hard white and half hard red. So it's more flavorful than just a hard white, but it's not as flavorful as if you used only hard red. And really the only way to learn what you like is to get in there and experiment with it. And yes, that takes some time. We order all of our wheat now currently through Azure Standard, and I just like to keep a good stock in the house so that if I wake up one day and I just feel like making brownies, I already have what I need in the house. And I recommend that you eventually get to that point where you keep enough on hand to be able to bake with it regularly. But just starting out, start with something small. Make sure you know what you like. Even through Azure, you don't have to order 50-pound bags. You can order a 5-pound bag. Get something small and find out what you like, but just know that you can only pick up through Azure once a month. Now, there are plenty of other places to find your wheat berries. That's just who I choose to purchase them from. I've never had a problem with their wheat, and honestly, their prices have been pretty reasonable compared to other places I've shopped around. It was worth it for us to make the switch because of the nutrition that we are getting. Between the raw milk from milking our own cow and then the fresh milled wheat, I can say that my family as a whole has not been sick since I made this switch. We are significantly significantly healthier than we have ever been. That's not to say that a member of our family hasn't gone down with an illness, but I can say that it hasn't been severe. And it's usually the family members who have a driver's license and are able to leave the house and go eat out more often than the little guys who are stuck at home eating my cooking. So there's been a tiny bit of illness that has kind of hit our family a little bit here and there. But since we have switched to fresh milled wheat exclusively and raw milk from our cow, my entire family as a whole has not been sick. I think that's pretty miraculous because we used to get sick anytime something was going around. So I'm really pleased about that. So nutrition-wise, it was completely worth it. Now, bread is supposed to be bad for your waistline. What we have found and what our friends have found is that fresh milled bread is far more filling and it sustains you longer. So because you're eating a real food product, you get full. You are satisfied because you just ate a warm slice of fresh bread straight out of the oven. You put butter and maybe homemade jam on it. It's just the most welcoming thing ever that you could eat, and your whole house just smells amazing. Man, talk about just a satisfying experience. But you're full and you're not immediately hungry later because your body isn't looking for the nutrition that it was lacking in eating traditional store-bought bread. So far, of those I have been willing to ask and talk to about it, and including my own situation and my family at home, eating fresh milled wheat products, bread, even cinnamon rolls with sugar on top, or the icing and everything on top, we are not gaining weight with these products that we're baking. We haven't put on any weight with fresh milled flour the way we maybe would have had a problem with store-bought. Now, I have not started making noodles, but I want to. And I did buy durum. Durum is the wheat berry that you would buy to create pasta. And I do plan to do that. Durum and camus are both really good for pasta. I do want to go there. In the meantime, we eat lentil pasta, so I don't eat traditional wheat pasta anyway. And that's worked out fine until I get there. But like I said, I'm not even quite a year into doing this. And so I feel like I'm still fairly new, and I have experimented quite a bit with things, but I haven't really branched out to do anything too terribly exotic. So I think it's probably about time. I need to start trying some new things. But in the meantime, a loaf of fresh sandwich bread coming out of the oven is still amazing. And the house smells incredible, and my kids love eating sandwiches on fresh milled bread. So that is why we made our big switch. That is why I think it's worth it. It was hard. It was a hard learning curve, and that's okay. And I mean, not everything is going to come easy to everybody, and I was willing to do the hard things and go out of my way to learn this. 100% worth it. I'm going to be getting some videos going on the things that I learned, the areas that I failed, and you know, some of the things that I messed up might seem totally common knowledge to you, but I really struggled, and I don't want other beginners or even seasoned bread bakers struggling the same way that I did. So let's get some fantastic bread going. I will start to show you the mill that I use, the mixer that I use. I'll just kind of put what I prefer, why I prefer it, and then you guys can make your own decisions from there. I completely support other people trying other products. It's not my way or the highway, but at the end of the day, it would be good to start milling some wheat and giving it a try. You will be surprised at the benefits at the end of the day.